I've been comfortable with other things in my life, and it's burned me. You know what I mean? So I feel like the second I start feeling comfortable is the second that I stop trying.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set. I want to play something for you. You're hearing No Answers by Thursday, featuring my guest, Tucker Rule, on drums. Thursday was Tucker's first band. He developed a crisp, powerfully tidy style during the band's initial 15-year run. Thursday went on hiatus in 2012, and Tucker further refined his playing, working as a musician for hire in the pop world. You can hear him on the new Frank Iero release, Barriers, out next month. I spoke to Tucker on a tour bus before a recent Thursday reunion show in Orange County. And now my conversation with Tucker Rule.
I grew up right in the center near Bridgewater. It's like just about 45 minutes from New Brunswick. Everybody was big into sports, you know, like my mom coached my baseball team when I was a kid, you know, it was crazy.
Really awesome.
Yeah. So it's like I had like a sporting background, but my mom was a postmaster, and we kind of lived right next door to my grandparents. So I always had like
The multi-generational upbringing?
Totally. Yeah. So
What about your dad?
Dad he lives in Florida. He was gone when I was a kid.
Okay.
And that's no big deal. I'm not upset.
It's no
about
big
it.
deal. Are you friendly with him at all now?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you think about him a lot?
No, not really. Like, just because he was always weird, so I was kind of glad when he was gone. You know what I mean? And then he would come back, and I'd be like, "Ooh, who's this dude?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't need any more friends. You know?
Yeah. He didn't come here to make friends.
Exactly.
What about your grandfather? Was he kind of like a father figure to
Totally.
you?
Yeah.
And that was your mother's father?
My mother's father, yeah.
And what was his story?
He was just a rad dude. He grew up in the he worked in the Postal Service for a while, and then he worked at this company called National Starch, which was, I don't even know what it was, but he worked in like the mailroom. But he was also like my whole family was into like all kinds of sports, and my uncle he tried out for the Yankees, but he got like the flu the day of the tryout, so he was playing outfield, and he explains it to this day like he was running with cinder blocks on his feet.
Oh man!
So he didn't end up getting the gig, but so I grew up heavy sports. So it was.
What position did you play?
Third base.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you a Yankees guy or a Mets guy?
Oh, Yankees guy. Yeah. I was actually a bat boy for a spring training game in Florida one year.
What year?
Oh man, I must have been. It was when Don Mattingly was my idol, and he actually didn't have a mustache. I have a photo with him.
Shit.
And he didn't have a mustache.
Now you have a mustache.
Now I have a mustache.
I saw Don Mattingly play a few times back when the Brewers were in the American League in the 80s, and my dad was obsessed with baseball, so I went to lots of games growing up.
Dude, baseball was like my whole life when I was a kid. Loved it. Ate, like I said, the family like lived, slept, breathed it. It was.
Did you care about music when you were a kid?
Not really. It's funny. I didn't start caring about music until I started skateboarding. That's when I discovered a bunch of like hip hop and punk rock, and getting influenced by skateboarding and skateboarders. I always wanted to like know what they were listening to, like what is this, and I would get all the VHS videos at the time, and it had all kinds of cool music on it, and I was like, man, this is what I want, I'm into this, So.
Did you want to be a professional baseball player at that point?
I did.
So how did you transition away from that and doing something equally as crazy, being a drummer?
Well, it's funny because I really got serious into skateboarding probably freshman year of high school, and I quit all sports. So then I started going to like hardcore shows, like local hardcore shows in Jersey, and thankfully we had like an insane hardcore scene. And a bunch of my friends were like into, being straight edge, so I was straight edge, and going to like Bouncing Souls shows and just all kinds of like crazy DIY punk shows, and where you could see every single, person on stage like going crazy, like blood, sweat, and tears. It was awesome. So I was like very heavily influenced, and at that point in time I knew that I was like, okay, I love music, I still didn't have any aspirations to play. I was just like, this whole skateboarding hardcore alternative scene is like my shit.
How did you get into playing?
We were like 17, and I was at my friend Mike's house, who will be here tonight. It's it's funny. He bought a drum kit for like $600. It was a white Tama Rockstar, and we started a band called Turnbuckle. It was a straight edge hardcore band, and I was going to be the singer. And we had like our first practice, and nobody knew how to play anything. You know what I mean? I had never sang before. Tom, who is in Thursday with me right now, he was playing guitar. He was terrible. And our drummer at the time, Mike, he couldn't hold a beat. He didn't know what he was doing. No one expected him to. But I was like, hey, let me try that. And I got back there, and I kind of like hit stuff, and I, in my car, when I would drive and listen to hardcore music, I used to tap on the steering wheel. I had no idea that a kick drum was a thing. Right. You hit something with your foot. I thought drum was all hands.
Right, because when you're watching a video on TV, you can't see what the person is doing with
exactly.
his feet.
Yeah, you have no idea. So once I discovered, like, oh, this is what makes that sound, I kind of just started putting things together slowly, and I ended up buying the drum kit off of him. I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, can I get like $600 to buy this drum kit? She's like, what? And I begged her for like a week, and then she finally gave in, and I bought it, took it home, and played for like 5 hours every day.
What was your process? Did you play along to records?
No, never.
Uh-huh.
I never, still to this day, never play along to records, unless I'm trying to learn music for a certain artist. But other than that, I just kind of would listen to something and kind of try to break it down, and then of course going to shows, I would hear that same beat, and I would just watch and be like, okay, he's doing that with his foot, that's happening with his hands, and then I kind of just started slowly putting it together, and then one day it clicked where my right hand was doing its own thing and my right foot was able to do something else. And from that point on, I was like, I started getting it, slowly but surely.
When did you feel like you were comfortable?
Still not comfortable with playing
really?
the instrument. Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to, get better in some way, and I've always been a fan. Like I've been comfortable with other things in my life, and it's burned me. You know what I mean? So I feel like the second I start feeling comfortable is the second that I stop trying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but isn't it important to also be confident if you're going to anchor a band?
Absolutely. The confidence is I have no problem with. Like, I know what I'm doing once I get up there, but like I'm always striving to figure out like why my left hand won't do this and why I can't, I need my foot to be quicker or something like that. So I'm constantly like adjusting my seat, moving this drum here, moving the snare over there, like just trying to get, stuff in a place where I can get more, dynamic or something. You
said you've been comfortable in other areas and it burned you. Can you give me an example?
I don't know, like the second I felt like I was like good at skateboarding, like somebody else would come along and I would be like, oh man, I should give this up, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or, even just, if I was trying out for a gig, and I thought I was like, I've got this, and then somebody else got it over me, you know what I mean? It's like, got to keep trying,
Yeah. Do you think that it's a matter of trying, or is it more complicated than that? Like maybe somebody else just has a particular voice that suits that music better?
I definitely think it's like a vibe, I've always thought about being in a band or being a drummer, being a musician in general is like 50% being able to play, your instrument well, but also the other 50% of having a good vibe, having a smile, kind of like showing up in other ways other than just being a musician.
Yeah, how would you describe your vibe?
I don't know. I try to be in a good mood a lot. I try to like help. I like to. I carry my own gear, kind of thing. I've always thought about keeping my stuff tidy. You know what I mean? Like if I have the gear and I have everything ready to go, that's one thing I don't have to worry about. So I always tried to have my gear in working condition at all times. Just in case.
What's the larger thing to draw from that you like to keep your gear in working condition? Is it like a meditative thing or something?
It could be.
Does it speak to like a quality of just being prepared, Boy Scout style?
I think I just like being prepared. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm used to getting the curveballs, in life, I feel. So it's at least that part of my life is ready. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And how long had you been playing before you started the band?
Couple months.
Okay, so this band was started in 99?
99, yeah.
And you were still in high school?
Still in high school. Well, Tom and I started playing in 98. Just kind of, he and I just kind of messing around with stuff. And then freshman year of college, he went to Rutgers. I went to a community college. He met Jeff. Jeff came over to my place, and we kind of just jammed. So it started in 98, basically. So I would say I had been playing about 6 months before we started actually writing Thursday songs.
How did you feel when you started writing the songs?
It was like nothing I ever felt before. It was like something just clicked, and we didn't even have a bass player at the time, so when I was writing my drum parts, I was writing to the guitar riff. I wasn't even thinking about a bass or a rhythm section. I was kind of just like writing to the riff. And I just remember the feeling of like, wow, let's play that again. We had like one part of one song, but let's keep looping it. Let's keep playing it. You know what I mean? It was just such a crazy feeling.
How often do you get that feeling now?
I don't know. I think I don't know if I even get that feeling now. I kind of get more of like the really enjoying when it's tight. When it's almost like you can hear a pin drop between the chugs or something like that. That's what I appreciate now, is like when everybody's firing on all cylinders.
And that's probably something that you weren't even aware of when you were first starting out.
No idea.
You didn't have the ear to hear that type of precision yet.
Absolutely not. And it's something that like keeps you going every day, because that's one of those things. It's like you never get too
can
comfortable.
Never be perfect.
Yeah. So you keep striving for that, like, chasing the dragon of that tightness and that like everybody firing on one syllable.
So you started the band after playing drums for a few months. You were going to community college. What was the shape that you saw your life taking at that point?
To be honest, I had no idea. I kind of, like I said, growing up sports, I was the captain of all my teams and all that stuff. And then I discovered skateboarding. So when I was doing sports, it was a team thing. I was good at being on a team. Then I started skateboarding, and I'm an only child as well. So skateboarding is very much a one-on, you with a board kind of thing. So I was good at being alone at a certain point in time. And then, so putting a band together was like another team for me. So I could go work on my drums by myself.
Are you the captain of Thursday?
Hell no. God. I can't be trusted with that duty. I wish I was.
You do?
No. I can't be trusted with that responsibility. But yeah, so I felt like playing by myself and practicing, was very much like skateboarding. It was like me and the drums kind of just in my head doing my thing, and then the band would come over, and then I could switch into that team mentality of like working together towards a common goal.
Mm-hmm. And what were you studying at community college?
I was liberal arts, and I was going for like an English major. So I was always like halfway decent at writing and stuff like that, but I was never really interested in it. All I wanted to do was skateboard. And then when I discovered drums, all I wanted to do was play drums. And then, we all dropped out of college we self-booked our first tour. This was before cell phones, before the internet.
Yeah.
And so
what did you do? Book your own fucking life?
Booked our own fucking life. I hand wrote a tour that was like 30 dates long across the country, that we had kind of like called this kid's house, and he had a friend in the next city over, and we would go play that person's house, and literally you would call the morning of, be like, hey, we're about to leave. It's a 10-hour drive. Are you sure the show is still on?
Yeah.
And we would drive and get
then
there.
sometimes it wouldn't be anyway.
It would, but it would be weird. You never knew you were showing up. One day we showed up to this kid's like house, and it was like his mom answered the door.
House.
Yeah. It was like carpeted room. And it was like a party, and there was like Cheez-Its and like snacks
And
on the
how did
table.
you feel?
I felt like, what am I doing? Like, what? How is this my life? I was 21 at the time. I was like, how is this like my life? Like, I don't understand. But we were having the time of our lives. And no one knew the band at the time, but it was just like you had something to prove, you get there, and that's kind of when that confidence came in, where I knew the band was kind of good. Like I knew that we were doing something cool. And
how did you know that?
I just felt it.
Yeah.
It just felt cool, and I went, and I don't know, it was an indescribable feeling. It just felt really awesome, and I made my hair stick up, and sometimes you got to trust that. That kind of instinct, I guess.
After that first tour, what was your plan?
Well, we wanted to like record a record. We wanted to take what we had and put it.
Did you have a 7-inch or something to bring on the tour?
We had like a 4-song demo that
like
we recorded.
CDR or something?
It
or
was
a
tape.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a tape that we recorded at an actual studio, because our singer Jeff knew these people at a studio called Big Blue Meanie, which we ended up doing the first 2 records at.
Big Blue Meanie?
Blue Meanie.
That was the name of the studio or the band?
Name of the studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a ska band that called that, I think.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, we actually, very cheap, made like a demo, a really decent quality demo, and people around Jersey, in New Brunswick area, because our singer used to put on a bunch of shows in his basement, had like At the Drive-In come through, Hot Water Music, Saves the Day, so we basically started this band to play in his basement.
Yeah.
But yeah, knew it was good because people were like, yeah, you guys are, pretty rad, and put out that little kind of tape and would sell it at places, and people were into it, and then, it kind of just caught on from there.
Did it seem feasible that 20 years later you'd be sitting in the back of a bus talking about it?
No way.
So what did you think was going to happen with your life?
I had no idea. Luckily, I've always had supportive people around me that, were like, you got to follow your passion. And I don't know, people that play drums, I feel like it's a different animal. Once you start playing the drums and you get obsessed with them a little bit, you know what I mean? And to pry me away from that would have been very difficult. And I think, like, my mom understood that. People understood that it was more than a hobby. Even if it didn't, yield any monetary value, it was like something that I would go to bed thinking about beats or coming up with stuff, or like thinking about a Deftones part and being like, how did he do that? Like, how can I make that into something that I can use, kind of thing, Well, the first record is called Waiting, and then we put that out on Eyeball Records.
Okay.
And then, that was kind of like a small run record. And then the first record that kind of caught on was called Full Collapse, and that was picked up by Victory.
And what do you think resonated with people about your music at that point?
I'm not sure. I think we were just excited. We were excited to play, and we were excited that people started to care. And speaking of, before we started doing this interview, speaking about Damon Atkinson, we did a tour with Saves the Day, Hey Mercedes, and Thursday was the opener. And our guitar player is a cinematographer, so he had a bunch of friends make a video for one of our songs, just like a really cheap live video, and we put it out, right at the beginning of that tour. And then MTV2 picked it up, started playing it during that Saves the Day tour, and that's when things started really taking off. So we honestly had no idea.
So MTV2 was a real like force for change.
Yeah, it was insane. Never thought that anything was going to happen. It's like at that point we didn't even know how to get big if we wanted to. You know what I mean? It was.
Did you want to?
I don't know. It happened so quickly. I never thought it would turn into.
You had a video
career.
on TV. This was a year or two after you started playing drums.
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you feel like when you listened back to your first couple records, did you feel satisfied with the way that you played at the time?
I mean, there's definitely things I would have changed, just knowing a little bit more about the instrument. But I mean, for like a kid who was just like, yeah, I'm really into this. Like I still feel pretty good about it, and I'm still challenged by it because we're on the 20-year anniversary tour, and we're playing that entire record front to back. And I still find it challenging as a 40-year-old man as I did as a 20-year-old man.
Yeah, and you want to be true to the energy that you put forth when you were 20 years old.
Absolutely. Also, it's like if I go see a band, I don't really necessarily want to see the drummer play anything different than what's on the record. You want to hear those, like, not that I have any iconic fills, but the bands that I liked, I wanted to hear those iconic fills. And
so who are some of those bands?
I just remember when Deftones' White Pony came out. I just loved that record. I just loved Abe's, the space.
It's very well considered, everything that he does on that album.
Dude, it's like everything is where it should be. It's loose, but in the tightest way possible. It's just got this swag and this feel. I can't believe I just said swag. That's the worst possible word ever, but it just has what I was looking for. And also, At the Drive-In, Relationship of Command came out at the same time, and then Perfect Circle, that record came out. So it was 3 very different records that kind of captured everything that I was thinking at that time and everything that I wanted to do on the drums.
At the Drive-In must have been crazy when you saw them in your friend's basement.
Dude, it was nuts.
I saw them around that same time to 6 people, and it was insane.
Dude, the same energy, whether there was 660 or 600 people.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know what I mean? They had the afros, so they looked like Muppets.
Yeah.
Like, flying around the stage. It was the craziest thing. But it was that kind of, seeing that was like, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, if I start a band, I want my band to have that energy,
So then after that, you guys signed to Island for a while.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, we kind of had a rough run with Victory, and we both wanted to part ways with each other, and the only way to go to a different label was to get bought out. And so there was a couple of labels that wanted us, indie and majors. The indie labels couldn't afford the buyout that Victory was. I don't really know the money issue or whatever that was. I just know that Island was like, we want you, let's do this. And we were like, okay. We had guilt about it. We had that like sellout kind of, are people going to like look at us and be like, what are, kids are selling out and all this stuff, because we came from the hardcore scene, the DIY.
Yeah. And there were also, aside from any sort of guilt issues, that was a time when it wasn't necessarily a good thing to sign to a major label for business reasons. I mean, lots of people got screwed over.
Totally.
So what was your experience?
Well, it was actually kind of good at the time. We were label mates with Hatebreed on Victory, and they also went through the same kind of thing and got bought out by, I forget what other label they went to, but we were like, oh, if Hatebreed can do it, we can do it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, and it was actually really great. They let us make the record we wanted to make, which was War All the Time. It just was on a bigger budget. You know what I mean? Everyone was super cool. Music was kind of changing at that time. Bands like us, Thrice, The Used, were all kind of coming up. It was a really good time for kind of that indie, post-hardcore, some call it emo. It was a good time for that music. So I feel like it was you got to strike when the iron's hot, I guess, and that was the only way to keep making music was to do it on a major at that time.
How did it change your life to have that support?
It became more of a, and I mean this in a good way, it became more of a job, like more of like a full-time thing. Like, we have to make this record, we're really excited. We had the tools, I had a drum endorsement at the time, which was crazy, and it was like I could literally say, like, I'm a musician. I'm a pro, obviously not like a pro, but I was working.
What do you mean a pro?
No, like I wasn't like the kind of guy that was going to do a drum clinic or something like that at that time, but I was an actual musician, like legit.
A working musician.
A working musician.
What were you doing before that to support yourself?
Man, I've had a bunch of different jobs. I worked at a pool for a while as like a maintenance dude, where I'd cut the grass and I'd paint the pool and get it all ready for the summer or whatever, because you go through 7 horrible months in New Jersey of bad weather, and then you got 3 to 4 good months of where you paint the pool and get it all ready for the summer so everybody goes crazy in the pool. And then but then I also worked in a mailroom at the United States Golf Association.
Okay.
So I would get all these people's handicaps from all over the country and kind of sort them and whatever. So I was just doing.
So you kind of went from those menial jobs to being able to say, I'm a working musician.
Yes, and then I would come back from tour and go straight back to those menial jobs.
Even when you were on a major label?
Yeah.
Did you tour with Thrice at the time?
We did. Actually, we were both signed to Island at the time, and we did a really great tour. It was us, Thrice, and Coheed and Cambria was the opener.
Did you and Riley sit around watching baseball games the whole tour?
We didn't. Because it's funny.
Were you in the closet about your love for baseball?
No. Well, kind of. It's funny that you asked, because I was so into it. Then as soon as the skateboarding and music took over my life, I stopped watching any and all sports.
Yeah, that was similar to my experience. I was really into baseball, and then when I got into drums, I felt like I had to abandon baseball.
Totally.
At the time, but I think that's more of a product of music being more of a signifier than it is now, as far as who you are, what your identity is. I think now kids can do what they want, and there's less weight put on like what your musical taste is.
Totally.
Or whatever.
Yeah, like what group you're going to hang out with.
Are you a jock or are you a music kid?
Totally.
Like it seems like they're all just on their phones.
Yeah. I don't know if you can attest to this, but during that time, like, it was either one or the other for me. Like, I didn't have time to do both. I didn't have time to follow stats. I didn't have time to, like, keep up with teams, because I was so, like, listening to music, trying to get the next, like, influence,
I mean, I probably did have time if I wanted to. I just thought it was stupid at the time.
There was also that.
Yeah. So you and Riley did not do it. You didn't bro down baseball style.
No, but we did play a bunch of wiffle ball, and I was like, "Man, you can throw a ball." He's like, "Man, you too." Even today, it's funny, It's I have a bunch of friends, that I play in other bands with or whatever, and we'll go out and throw the ball, and it's like, you realize that not a lot of people can throw a baseball or throw a football, and it's only the people that you could spot somebody with a sports background by the way they throw a ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then in 2011, the band went on hiatus.
Yeah.
What was the impetus to do that?
So, we still all loved each other very much. We still enjoyed playing together, but it was one of those things where the amount of time we were putting into the band wasn't yielding enough money to live. And all the time we were taking to do the band didn't allow us to have jobs on the side. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like you have to kind of give up what you love in order to try to make a better life for yourself.
So what did you do next?
So I freaked out for maybe 2 months.
Because at this point you had been playing in the band for 13 years. You hadn't really had another career as an adult.
Thursday was everything that I was. I was Tucker from Thursday, and I didn't know myself as anybody else or anything else.
How did you figure out who you were as a person after that?
So I took like a good couple months to like try to I freaked out, and not in like a bad way, but just like, what am I going to do? Do I want to try to get another gig? Do I want to get a job? What do I need to do to I need to support myself? And I hit up my then publicist, by a guy by the name of Eric Wong.
Eric Wong?
Yeah. At Island, he was our dude at Island, and I was like, hey man, he's now like the COO of Island Def Jam.
Oh man, I gotta hit him up. I have a record, I need a deal.
He's an amazing dude.
Another.
He's a crazy, exactly. But I hit him up. I'm like, hey man, I Thursday's done for a little while. I really want to stay in music. So if you have any, studio gigs, or if you have anybody who's doing some sort of showcase NER is doing a showcase and you need a drummer, please hit me up. Like, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I want to do this, you know. And it was literally just a shot in the dark. And he was like, yeah, man, I'll totally, you know, hit you up. Like, I love you. You're, you know, we were, you know, close friends at the time. A week later, he calls me, and all this previous was like email or text. And then when the phone rings, you're like, oh my God, why is this person calling me? You know, like, nobody answers their phone anymore. So I answer. I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? And he's like, I got this band. I need you. So this was on a Monday. He's like, Thursday, I need you to come in. You're going to rehearse with this band. But I need you to get a bass player and a guitar player, all New York based. And I was like, okay, do I get to choose them? He's like, yeah, I want you to choose them. I trust you. You know, preferably like rockers, you know, tattoos, kind of going for a look. I was like, okay, what's the band called? He's like, oh, they're called The Wanted. And at this time, I was playing in a band called Murphy's Law, like a legendary New York hardcore band. You know, but it was like a show once every month, you know, just basically around home. So it wasn't like a serious touring band or anything. And I was like, oh, a punk band called The Wanted. Okay. Yeah, I'll call those dudes and whoever I know, and I'll get back to you. Hang up the phone, and I'm thinking of like, oh, The Wanted. Call them back. I'm like, what kind of music is it? Is it punk? He's like, no, it's a boy band.
Oh.
And I was like a boy band. He's like, yeah, like 5 singers. They're from the UK. They're flying in. They're going to do a showcase for Ireland. And I was like, okay. So I called my friend Eric. He was very reluctant to do a boy band. He said no at first. And then I called my friend Brian, who used to play in this band From On to Ashes. And Brian's like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. Like, I love pop music. And then I was like, called Eric back. I was like, dude, you got to do this. Come on, it's going to be fun. Who knows?
Be weird.
It's going to be super weird. 4 days of rehearsal and showcase, and it was awesome. And I was with them for 4 years after that. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they're big?
They were huge, yeah. They stopped in 2015.
Okay.
But we did like Ellen DeGeneres a couple times. We did like
So was
Dancing
it like
with the Stars.
a different level than what you had experienced?
Yes. In the UK, we were playing arenas, like headlining arenas. Here we did a tour with like Bieber and Carly Rae Jepsen. It was a crazy time, you know. We were just like hired guns that got to go around the country, play music, and get paid. It was awesome. And the kids were cool, you know. And
I imagine that on one level it was probably more fun than being in a band, and then on another level it might not have been as creatively satisfying.
Yes, you're right about both of those. It was fun to not have it be like I have to make a T-shirt design, decision, or do I look at the budget for this, that, and the other thing. I didn't have to do with any of that. You know, it was just like I'm getting paid the same no matter if the show is, undersold by 1,000 tickets or if it's oversold. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely was creatively stifling, but it was also fun because it was pop music. You know, it was like a different challenge. You know, it was the first time that I was playing disco beats where I'm hitting the kick and the snare at the same time and they can't flam. You know, I'm playing a lot of TV at the time. You have to be as perfect as you possibly can because your job is to be the same every day.
And the idea was to have these cute boy singers with the rocker band?
Yeah, with kind of like an edge to it, you know?
Yeah.
And
so what was your look? Did you change it up at all?
No. Basically, they were like, just wear what you're going to wear and, just don't wear any, like, logos, It couldn't say, like,
So you weren't wearing like a Hey Mercedes T-shirt or something?
No, but I did. I did wear a Bad Brain shirt on TV one time. I tried to sneak whatever little who I was in a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they probably sell Bad Brains T-shirts at Barney's now. Anyway.
yeah. There's definitely a CBGB's in the New York. New York airport. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Baby face, you may never break, let's breaking hearts. There's no one true like him, sitting on top of it, and heavy on electric seas.
How did your idea of self evolve during this time? Now you were no longer Tucker from Thursday.
I was Tucker working drummer.
Yeah.
You know, doing something that kind of no one in my genre of music at the time was doing. You know, it was like pop music. So I made friends with all these different working musicians, you know, which was really cool. It was like kind of like the next level of not that, you know, pop musicians are better than hardcore musicians like that, but it was like an actual job that was kind of not my own band. You know what I mean? It was like I was an actual working musician, you know, and so I was kind of really proud of that. And like I said, all kinds of TV appearances, Dancing with the Stars, American Idol, Billboard Awards. So it was crazy. And it was a lot of pressure, but it was good pressure. And I really enjoyed like the challenge of trying to be, you know, to show up and play as well as possible, you know. And it was just a really crazy time. And I took it seriously, and I really loved it. I really loved, you know, not having the pressure of having it be my own band, but having the pressure of like really playing.
Right. You're
solid.
there to facilitate somebody else's music,
Yes.
and you're being paid to do it.
Totally.
So then what would you do with your free time during that period?
Oh, man, there was times where we'd be in LA, staying at a hotel for a month at a time.
A fancy hotel.
A fancy hotel, yeah. We'd do like a couple of appearances here or there, but so it was a lot of like going out, a lot of, you know, hanging out, and it was weird. It was just a lot of hanging out, a lot of like hurry up and wait, but it was also like a really good time.
Did you try to write your own music during that time when you had time off?
Not really. Not really. And there was at that time there was no thought of Thursday getting back together or anything like that. That wasn't even discussed, you know. I was in it. I was in
that world.
into being the backing band for The Wanted at that time.
Were you speaking with any of the Thursday guys at that point?
Yeah, Tom, our guitar player, is my best friend, so it was, you know, we kept in touch, obviously, and we all kind of kept in touch, you know, whether it be like family occasions or something like that, you know, and everybody would chime in, like they'd see me on TV, and they'd be like, "Oh, dude, there you are," you know, so it was cool, you know.
And what was the conversation when you considered getting this band back together?
Right after The Wanted, I started playing in Yellow Card, and I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and Jeff came out to a show, our singer Jeff came out to a show in San Francisco, and we kind of chatted about like, oh yeah, you know, like, oh, this would be fun if we, you know, we did this again or something like that. And then Tom, my best friend and guitar player, was like, you know, when you get off the road, why don't you all come over to my house? He lives in Maryland, and we'll just like hang out. All of us just hang out, have dinner, stay over, we'll spend the weekend together, have some drinks, you know, kick it or whatever. And it was at that time where we're like, oh yeah, like we still do really love each other. We still are brothers and are closer than any of our other closest friends that aren't involved with the band, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like just hanging out that kind of brought us back into, you know, doing this again. But then also people started offering. Like we got a lot of show offers and festival offers, and finally it came to one of those, you know, offer you can't refuse.
What was that?
It was a festival in Atlanta. And I don't know why I'm blanking on the festival name, but Quicksand was on it. You know, there was a bunch of great bands on it, and we were like, okay, we'll do it. And that was in 2016. And
what are your plans now?
well, we have another leg of this tour that goes till March, and then no real plans after that. We're kind of just taking the rest of the year off as far as Thursday goes, you know. No plans to do anything with this band at that time.
And what about you?
I've got a ton of stuff going on, which is really good.
On drums?
On drums.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And you're married?
I'm married.
Do you have kids?
I don't.
Do you want to have kids?
Yes.
Does it scare you to have kids?
100%.
Why?
For a long time, it was hard enough to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I just came up on a year sober in January, so
Really?
Yeah.
So the whole time you were playing with The Wanted and Yellow Card, you were Indulging?
Indulging, but it was always after the gig. I never, in my whole career of playing music, I've never touched a drop of alcohol before I played.
What was the reasoning for getting sober? Was it getting out of control?
It was, I mean, I wouldn't say it was totally getting out of control. I just wanted to be, I turned 40 in November, so I wanted to be in a better place in my life, monetarily and also health-wise, by the time I was 40.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I made it a year on my 40th
Congratulations.
birthday. Thanks, man. It feels great. And I also knew that, like, I wanted to play these songs the best I possibly could. And this is the only way to do it. Last night we played here. We're here at the Chain Reaction right now, and played here last night, and had to be 120 degrees on stage. There's no way I could have made it if I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah.
You know?
What else do you do to take care of yourself?
Try to go to the gym every other day, even on tour.
Mm-hmm.
I've been vegetarian for almost 30 years, so take a lot of supplements and eat a lot of greens, and I eat like a rabbit. But yeah, just a lot of exercise and a lot of being like, okay, you're 40 now, you're an actual adult.
Yeah.
It's time to start acting like one.
How do you take care of yourself spiritually?
I mean, my wife definitely keeps me very grounded. You know,
What does she do?
she is an executive assistant. She works for a company called Button. It's mobile tech
In New York?
in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's very supportive of what I do. But I mean, to be honest, like spiritually, being sober has a lot to do with, like, you know, I kind of gotten to know myself a lot better. You know, there's a lot of time in the day when you're not going out and partying.
Mm-hmm. A lot. Not even just partying, but, you know, meeting friends for drinks. For me, that was just part of my daily routine.
Yeah.
And now that I don't do that as much, there's just so much more time to do things that I wanted to do.
So much more room for activities.
So how are you filling up that activity? That room?
I play a lot of drums. Even when I'm at home, I try to make it a point every day to go and spend a few hours at least just going through stuff and keeping that relationship with the drums, you know, the instrument. Like, being able to touch drums every day is very important to me. Yeah, other than that, I don't know. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
What do you listen to?
I've been on a big true crime kick, like True Crime Garage or whatever, and that's been consuming my life a lot. But also, I try to spend quality time with my friends now. Like, speaking of Paul Schneider, we'll go out and have breakfast and talk about our lives and kind of like connect on a level of like real people, rather than going out to a bar at night and getting shit-faced and making these grandiose plans to start 24,000 other bands and, you know, get rich quick schemes, you know?
What's the most important thing you've learned about yourself in the last year?
Planking is very hard.
How long can you plank?
I've been trying to do 4 minutes a day.
At a time?
No, I do 2 minutes if I can.
Yeah.
Then I rest, then I do another minute, and then I rest, and I do another minute.
How long do you rest? For a minute?
About a minute, or until I get bored of resting.
Yeah.
Because there's a point when you're resting that you're like, man, I can't believe I have to do this for another minute.
Yeah.
Let me just get this over with.
Yeah, the anticipation.
Oh, yeah, it kills. But I also, I mean, like anybody else.
That's the most important thing you learned, though, is that planking is hard?
Not really. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know. It's weird. Like, social media kind of plays a big part in my day as somebody who's, you know, trying to be a good drummer in real life, and then like also try to remain in the drumming community, because I really like other drummers and I really like all that stuff. But social media, you know, is a way to like see other drummers and like be friends with other drummers. So I spend a lot of useless bullshit time on social media.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. So I've been slowly realizing that I spend too much time on my phone. And that's one thing that I'm like, you know what, that's next. Mm-hmm. That's next to kind of put down. You know, maybe cut that time in half.
What vice are you going to keep?
I don't know. Maybe I'll become like a real gym rat. You know, striving for that.
There you go.
That perfect, you know,
Have you ever tried CrossFit?
I'm scared of CrossFit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just too many people get hurt.
Yeah.
And
If you go to the wrong place, you could.
Exactly, and I don't even think for me it would take the wrong place. Like I feel like somebody's like, do this,
Yeah.
but do it slow.
Yeah.
And like I'm like, well, I feel like I'm pretty athletic, so I'm gonna do it fast.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I blew out my ACL or some shit. You know what I mean? I can't.
I really fucked up my shins doing it.
That's another thing.
I was like
Shin
jumping on a
splints.
box, and my sweat was dripping on the box, and then I slipped and just nailed my shins. It was on a 4th of July.
Ugh,
And they were just gouged open.
Ugh.
It was really gross.
no fun.
I haven't been doing it for a while, but
That's
I do
what
other shit at home. Like I
Yeah.
have my own like prison workout thing that I do with pull-ups and jump rope and stuff.
Killer, like your own kind of body weight.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
See, I'm a big fan of that.
Well, anyway, nobody cares about my home workouts.
I do.
I think that's a good place to end it.
All right.
Tucker, thanks so much for being on the show.
Joe, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.